Hey folks, it's Chris from Comic Tropes, and today we've got something special. We've got three of the creators of the new comic Orcs in Space by Oni. So let's get to meet some of them. Michael, I'm going to start with you. Could you introduce yourself? Just tell the viewers a little bit about who you are, what your background is.
Yeah. All right. I'm Michael Tanner. I'm one of the writers on Orcs in Space. I also I'm co-creator and co-writer on another graphic novel series called Junior Braves of the Apocalypse, which is about kids fighting zombies. That's also from Oni. I've done some anthology stuff. I've done some self-published comics. I'm just a comic-loving guy here in Los Angeles.
Thank you. Moving on, Abed, I can see you've got yourself muted, but would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Hello there. My name is Abed Gheith, and this is my first venture into comic books, but I guess, long-time reader, first-time writer.
Perfect,
Been
perfect. And
reading, yeah.
I see we also have your brother Rashad here. What can you tell us about yourself, Rashad?
Um, I'm just a big geek, really. I spend most of my time reading manga and playing online fantasy games. This is a really dream come true. I never thought I'd actually be writing comics. But, I've been generating ideas for stuff that I think would be amazing all along. So this is, our big chance to share some of that with people.
I think it's definitely very unique that like there's this sort of writer's room on a single comic. I'm used to seeing something like this in a big anthology. There's typically maybe two writers because I've got three of you guys here, but you also have Francois. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Vigneault.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
you
darn
got it.
close, if not exact.
He's
It's
the
like
artist, and
Vino,
I
like you're
understand, he
saying.
contributed ideas. And you've got Justin Roiland is also on the team.
That's
That,
correct.
that's quite a team. Well, let me do
There's a
this.
lot of us, and then we got a colorist. It's a big thing. It's
It
a lot of
sounds unique,
moving
so I want to
parts.
like delve into this and try to understand it. I'll throw a question to you to start with, Michael. Who came up with this premise in the first place? Because orcs are typically bad guys. Orcs are typically fantasy. You can tell from the title, Orcs in Space. They're the protagonists. It's sci-fi. Who came up with this? How'd that happen?
Abed and Rashad came up with the concept, and
In that
then
case, you can
yeah, you
just
could kick it to them.
just quiet down. Let me kick
Um,
it to the Gheith brothers and see where did this come from?
yeah, so as a kid, I was always drawn to the bad guys in everything. I always felt they were more interesting. Like in G.I. Joe, I was rooting for Cobra. In Gummy Bears, I was rooting for Duke Igthorn and his stupid trolls. Um, in Labyrinth, I was rooting for the goblins. The bad guys always just seemed cooler, more powerful, and they always lost and always bummed me out. So this is almost a nod towards
Dick Tracy.
the bad. Oh yeah, and Dick Tracy. I'd say Ninja Turtles was probably the odd man out because they were like just as cool as the bad guys there. But I've always loved orcs, and actually the origination of Orcs in Space comes from an online fantasy game called Ultima Online, where I ran into a group of orc role players. These players who would act like orcs, speak like orcs. They would never break character, and I fell in love with them. I thought they were the silliest, funniest things ever, and I joined them. And through playing an orc with them, I realized how profitable bringing orcs to mainstream could be, and I'd never seen orcs. I'd never seen a spotlight on orcs. They were always the dumb henchmen of some greater force. So, and I knew if just somebody gave these creatures their spotlight on them, that it could be big. And Abed and I have always been fans of Star Trek and Farscape, the space odysseys. And so really
You
Orcs
see
in
that by
Space,
looking in your
I've been
backgrounds.
yeah, Orcs in Space is really just a matter of putting two and two together. It was like you take orcs, they steal a spaceship, you fling them into space, and hilarity ensues.
I would attest to. I remember. I think we were really little, and he was always into the bad guys. He's right, because of RoboCop. I think he liked the bad guys more, like those idiot goons. And then also, was it Karate Kid? You sided with Johnny, I think. Like
Yeah, Johnny and Bad Boy, and
yeah, like they were yeah, and Bad Boy. Like I do remember you always gravitating towards the villain characters and
T-1000.
Yeah, T-1000, perfect. Of course, I'm an idiot as a kid that's always like, no, Arnold Schwarzenegger's better, and He-Man's better than Skeletor. What are you talking about? So that's the thing. Like, we were always kind of fighting too in that sense, and that created a bit of like an interesting collaboration here, since it's like been in our lives, like doing this kind of stuff or into this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, don't worry, Michael. I do have a good question for you, but I want to follow up on this. Abed, since you guys came up with this sort of premise, can you tell us a little bit about how you brought this team together? Like how did that all happen? Because it's a big team.
The genius behind that is probably Justin, because he really, I mean, I think Rashad pitched him the idea, I want to say like about 10 years ago. And in the crazy scheme of things, like the good stuff really rises to the top when you're talking about like, if an idea is good, it's going to find its way, like Jurassic Park, like just finds a way. Life finds a way. And so it somehow got to Justin's psyche in the sense that he always thought about it. And originally it was going to be a cartoon, but these weird circumstances put it in the zone of Oni wanted a comic and Justin was thinking about Orcs in Space at the same time. So at that point, he assembled me and my brother to just develop it. And we went through a lot of things where we didn't really know how to write a comic. So that's when Michael came in, but that was like, I think 5 years later. Mm-hmm. Right, Mike?
Yeah.
And not only did Mike bring such a fresh perspective and like understanding of the world, but it felt like a good writer's room where we all three get along and kind of respect each other and we make each other laugh. And Justin is the orchestra, he orchestrated it all.
Yes.
Well, sort of like playing an orchestra.
Well, that is generally, yes, what orchestrating is. Good. I like that. I'll sort of follow up with that. To you, Michael, what is the work process when there's this many people involved? Like, what are the steps involved to actually getting to a workable script that you can give to an artist?
Yeah, we, back before the COVID times, we would get together every like 2 or so weeks to write. Essentially, we'd get together at coffee shops or even like bars during the day. And first we went through and we outlined each arc. Juice bars, boba places, anywhere that had free Wi-Fi. So we'd work out a whole outline, a pretty detailed outline, submit that to our editor, get approved on that, and then get into the writing each issue. And we've never had like a formula for how we do it, because we tried different things as we're putting it together. And then, COVID times, it became like Google Meets, doing online, and just kind of like throwing out ideas, figuring out like, we got 22 pages. What's the best usage for, like, there's times where we'll come up with really good jokes, but the setup will take a page, and it's a page we don't have. So sometimes you have to like, all right, that's a really good joke. Just remember it someday, and we might have space in this issue or in an issue to use it. So it's kind of like, because I'm the one with the most comic experience, I'm the funnel that kind of gets things onto the page. But we're all like throwing out jokes. We're all throwing out ideas about how to kind of jokes to use and plot to like move things forward. Because it is a wacky story about orcs in space, but it's about like personhood. It's about fighting authority. There's a lot of actual story heart in the series.
There's a lot of growth. I think characters kind of find their way in a strange universe.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to sneeze. Good timing there.
That's perfect for this comic, because Michael and me, was it me, Mike, or you? We invented a term called snot humor.
Snot humor. There's a lot of snot humor in the book.
Yeah, and I would say if you like Garbage Pail Kids, it's that obsession we all have with the gross stuff.
Yeah.
That when I must have been 12 maybe, but I was getting Garbage Pail Kids every single day, and they were disgusting and weird, but it was like I was so into those. And just the art and the silliness of gross stuff being fun. So it's like that's sort of part of the essence of this book.
Like, I don't want to challenge anyone, but I'm pretty sure this comic has the most vomit in any comic of all time. It's a lot of snot humor, a lot of vomit humor, but like that's it's humor.
Vomit humor is more intense, I'd say, but there is that. But it's not vomitous, it's snotous, not snotulous.
Okay. We're talking about sort of how this gets put together, which is interesting, but anybody watching this, there's a good chance they haven't read it yet. Rashad, I'll kick this over to you. What can you tell me about who the protagonists are and like what they want in this story? What makes this book unique? What is their journey?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, I started by saying I've always been interested in the bad guys, but with Orcs in Space, I'd say the Orcs are kind of more morally ambiguous.
Okay.
They're just idiots. Essentially, we base them off the Three Stooges. Abed and I are huge Three Stooges fans, and the Stooges are always running from trouble, getting themselves in trouble and running from it. So the Orcs essentially steal the most advanced spaceship in what we call the Galactagon from our parody of Starfleet from Star Trek, which is our parody of Star Bleep. And so Star Bleep, in a sense, are the good guys. They're the ones who want their ship back. The Orcs are they've just shot out with the help of an artificial intelligence named Donna. And the interesting dynamic there is, the question is, are they taking advantage of Donna, or is Donna taking advantage of the Orcs?
Real quick, I would say that instead of good guys, Starbleep are like the bureaucracy, like they're the DMV. So they're like, they do everything by the book. They have regulations. The only difference between them and the Orcs is that they have jobs.
So maybe not necessarily good and evil so much as like chaotic and organized or something, button heads.
The Orcs are agents of chaos, and Starbleep, like Abed was saying, is like the DMV. They don't even really have a concept of what the Orcs did to the ship. They was like, oh, these strange creatures that we have no idea about, they took our ship. Well, I'm sure they're going to return it. Like, because who would take something that doesn't belong to them, right? And that's kind of
that's my favorite Starbleep joke, is that they're just shocked someone would steal something. They're like, no, that wouldn't happen. It doesn't belong to them. Like, I just remember that. That's like the start, actually, what Michael said, of those characters, like what they are.
It's essentially a fish out of water tale.
Okay.
The Orcs really have no objective other than they want to escape this Orc war chief who wants them dead on their home planet. So the Galactagon is their oyster initially, and over time they're going to meet friends and develop mostly enemies who want them dead. So it's really exciting to see the birth of this silly, stupid universe that we're starting to populate. It's almost like a snowball effect, really, is what I like to think about it. Just a snowball effect of coolness, and these idiot Orcs at the center. It's so much fun to write.
A lot of it is Red Dwarf and Farscape, I think, and Futurama. Those are like the main thrusts of like our inspiration. Also, I mean, I love 90s comics so much, and I draw a lot from, like, I don't know if you used to read Bone or Quantum and Woody or Gen 13.
I've got it in the rack and stuff. Yes, of course.
I mentioned those because I know Chris is such a big comic fanatic, and so am I. But it's like that period was when me and my brother, and I'm sure Mike too, when he was younger, it had the most influence, I'd say, on anything I do.
That makes sense. Talking about how this is a comedy, Michael had mentioned a little earlier how all of you guys are, meeting in person, at least initially, pitching jokes and stuff. Also, dealing with the constraints of size. But how would you determine what the best gag or the best joke is? Like, is the funniest win, or does everybody get a turn? Like, how does that all work? Like when you're all trying to come up with the humor?
Michael might have a good answer, but mine would be, there's a way to write where you have to be egoless and you have to think of the machine, of the project, of the life of it, and if the joke really works organically, I think across the board everyone's fine. So if it feels like something Gore would say, or a reaction he would have, we all love it. It doesn't matter if like who wrote what. I always feel that like sometimes it's Mike, sometimes it's Rashad, sometimes it's me. Sometimes it shifts hats so much that it's like kind of, that's what I think lends itself to the work, I'd say.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's not a lot of ego. Like we're not taking turns. It's really is just like what joke lands the most with us. And if sometimes jokes we will work verbally but might not work on a page. So we also have to think like, can the art convey this joke the way we want it? So sometimes we have to like, if it's a joke that requires, like it's a pronunciation joke, or it's like the way a line would be delivered, if we think like, because Abed, especially coming from animation, thinks about things like how it'd look in the cartoon, or how a voice actor might be able to do it, and that doesn't work for comics. So
that's
sometimes
a hard lesson to learn. Actually.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a really good joke, but we have it's not going to land on the page because it's not a comic joke. So it's also thinking about like how Francois, the artist, can like make that joke work in a visual medium.
And how did Francois end up becoming the artist here? Like, who brought him in, and what are his contributions? Would you guys say?
We were developing the show, and then I want to say Oni threw him at us and gave us this artist who, like, from the get go, I was a fan, because everything it looked like to me that it was. I didn't say this before, but I've been trying to say it for a while, but I keep forgetting. Years ago, I used to get these posters from the store, I think CVS, and they were giant posters and they were art, but you had to color them in. And when I first saw Francois' art, I thought of those posters because he does a lot of there's a lot going on in the scene, but there's so much fun detail and everything. And I just thought of one of those giant posters from when I was a kid. You remember those, right, Rashad?
Oh yeah, I loved them. Some of them were like dinosaurs. I had one that was just a big fantasy scene.
My favorite was, and this was what looked like Francois' art, it was a building, and there was all these people in the building, and it was like different floors where different people were working or living. Right. And it was like the whole thing looked so cool, and then it had like the courtyard with people walking around, and like it was giant. It was like huge. It was like, I want to say like 24x7 or something.
Yeah, why did they ever stop selling those things?
I don't remember. They were at like Long's or CVS.
Yeah.
and there was always a bunch of them, so you had to look through like the poster rack to find the one you wanted. And and like Francois' art just like grabbed me, where I was like, that kind of looks like the right fit. And ever since then, everything he's drawn has impressed me more each day.
Well, he was kind enough to reach out to me and share with me this first double-sized issue. So I have had a chance to look at it. And what strikes me about it is, and I wish we could have had him, just schedules weren't lining up, but his art is, first of all, very clean, very easy to read. But when you were saying that about like the detail, I did sort of get something a little bit Sergio Aragones, a little bit Jeff Darrow, where there's just, the background isn't just like a couple shapes or like sticks. Like he'll fill it up with characters and stuff. And I was like, this is fun to like sort of pour over and look for details. So yeah, I thought he ended up being a great fit for making it easy but fun to read. It's hard to describe 100%.
He makes it really feel like it's a real world by putting all those extra details that have nothing to do with our characters. That really just make it feel populated. It's like in the first double-sized issue when the orcs go to a space bar, it's kind of our riff on the cantina scene in Star Wars, that kind of idea of seeing like the wider world. There's there's characters, and we didn't really like give him much direction, like what kind of creatures or aliens and whatnot should populate the world, except for in a few cases. So he really, like, a lot of them look like kind of Dali-esque. It's a fascinating bit of detail that he puts in. And I think that, yeah, like you said, it's Sergio Aragonés, cartoony, but not so much where you kind of get uninvolved or just invested in it, I guess. If it, like, no, you're like, oh, this is real. This is real life.
And this is just my point of view, but orcs are, like monsters. They're not humans. So if you had gotten an artist, like some 90s superstar that, like, just does tremendous, like, detail and, like, over renders stuff, and it looks like it would be hard for the reader to sort of place themselves on that character. Whereas if it's more open line work and a little cartoony, and I mean that in the best possible way, it's much more easy to place yourself on these characters and just sort of relate to their personalities, as compared to going like, well, that doesn't look anything like me.
I would equate it to like Gremlins, where when you see Gizmo, you just love Gizmo. I mean, it doesn't matter what he says. It's like the way he looks is appealing. Same with like Ninja Turtles. Like, they just look cool and you want to watch them more. And that's the magic of someone like Francois, is like, especially the way he draws Kravis. It's like, he's just cool looking, and like, I want to see more of what he's doing.
Right. Well, let me ask this too. How regarding the overall story, how big do you see this being? Like, is it something that you see a lot of stories, or do you have a finite story to tell? Like, Rashad, it sounds like, some of this started with you. Like, do you have a lot of stories here? Do you just one? Like, what is it?
Oh, I feel like the first 12 issues is just scratching the surface. There's so much more we can get to. I'm constantly, ideas are popping in my head of new characters I want to throw in. So as excited and ecstatic as I am about sharing the first 12 issues with everyone, I'm so hoping Oni gives us an extension, because there's so many more stories we can tell. And,
I would like to see.
It doesn't end with a period.
I would like to see guest stars, like, from, like, do crossovers or something, because that's the kind of angle I want to do. Like,
are you talking
I know
about
this sounds crazy, but someone like
Popeye
Popeye showing up. What's that?
I was saying, are you talking about characters, or are you talking about creators when you say crossover of it?
Oh, characters. Like, I just think there's so much possibility to do anything with this book. So
okay,
I'm open to a lot of things. And especially if Rashad has ideas, it's like we kind of have an endless, like I mean, there's so many places it could go, but it's already got the foundation built to be something, to be anything at this point. So I'm just excited that there's this, like, open sort of like zone, like a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, it really seems like you guys have a premise here where, you could do anything. It could be satire, or it could just be character based. It really does, from my just reading the double-sized issue, like, it seems like you could go a lot of different directions, which is why I was asking how big you thought it would be.
I'd like to make someone cry, since we've made people laugh. So I think an issue that's like super sad, that would feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got the first 12 is what we're actually writing issue 12 right now. So a year from now, officially the series is 12 issues. Yep. Where, like Rashad mentioned, we kind of hope we get to do a season 2, as it were. Because these first 3 arcs, the first 12 issues, if this is the only 12 that ever come out ever, it's a satisfying conclusion and a great story. If we get to do more, it's a season 2, and we've set up things that can be different, take us new places. It would be a great way to continue on. We have the power to do that with what we've set up. Or if it ends, it's satisfying. So either way, readers win, but we want them to win more. So we hope we get to do more issues.
Sounds great. By the time this comes out, the first 2 issues, like, which are sort of like one, will have come out, right? What day is it supposed to land in stores?
July
The
7th.
first week of July, so July.
Oh, so maybe
6th.
this will, so excuse me, let me paraphrase. I guess what I meant to say is this video will come out before the issue is out, but the time for pre-orders for that first issue has passed. But if it sounds interesting to you, keep in mind this would be a good time to talk to your comic book store about placing an order for issue 3.
Yes.
Well, issue 3, then you can also, if they do a second printing, which that would be amazing, you can also do that. So it's like you'd be able to get all the issues that way.
Absolutely. So any final thoughts before we get into plugs on, what people should know about this comic book?
I'd say there's no real target age range for this. I'd say anyone, 8 and up is going to find something to enjoy about Orcs in Space. And I know it's difficult to find something that people our age and kids would equally like, but I honestly believe we've walked that line, and I think we deliver it. So if you got kids, I think they'll love it, and it's something everyone can talk about while eating cereal.
That's great.
I do like, it's interesting that Orcs are kind of having a moment. Like Boom has Christine Larson's book Orcs, which is really great. Orcs just as a concept have been kind of re-envisioned in the last few years. Orcs are having a moment, and which makes it even like crazier. Like Rashad was working on this 10 years ago, and this was ahead of the curve, but comics works in a lot of ways so slow that we're now just kind of like in the meat of it. That's an exciting time for something that if you love Orcs, if you love fantasy Orcs, if you love Warhammer 40K Orcs, like if you like sci-fi, this book is kind of great. It scratches all those itches. Homage, parody, just original stories, like in those flavors. I think anyone would really like it.
I'll also say that I just want to quickly, what Rashad said, I go to a comic store, and what I'm noticing now is parents going in with their kids, and they like to read stuff together. So it's like, I'll see a dad, and he knows certain stuff he grew up with, and so does the kid now wants the new, like, East of West or whatever. So it's like, basically, this is a comic, like Rashad said, that they can probably share. Because I think people like us that grew up on Ninja Turtles will like it. People that are new will see kind of like the Justin Roiland-ness of it, maybe. Because also, Justin, his touch is all over it, so it's like a bit like of that world. If you like Rick and Morty and you like Futurama, this is kind of a comic for you, only it's in deep space, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody here giving me some time. I think that the issue was legit fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't really be doing this interview. I really think that it's something my viewers should check out. Before we take off, let's do a round of plugs. I'll start with you, Michael. Anything coming up or any social media you want to plug?
Yeah, you can go to my website, buymichaeltanner.com. That's BY, michaeltanner.com. I have a web store where you can buy my self-published comics, Junior Braves of the Apocalypse, also from Oni. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, which is Mike is Ernie at twitter.com. You know how to find someone on Twitter. It's the 21st century. And that's all my plugs.
Beautiful. Rashad, anything to plug?
I don't really do social media, so I'm not on it much. If you're interested in what I can do, check out Orcs in Space.
Perfect. Perfect. And moving over to you, Abed, anything viewers should know?
I would say Orcs in Space is the most exciting thing I'm currently working on, but you can find me on Twitter, Abed G, ABEDG. It's the same handle for Instagram as well. If you go to Schraub Home Video sometimes during the week, I guest host for Callie, and I'm hosting this coming up with Kat Solon. So Sunday, SchraubHomeVideo.com. You can always find me on there goofing off.
Yeah, live show pretty much all day throughout every Sunday there, huh?
Yeah, I'm sort of part of that team.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time today. Best of luck with your comic, and again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chris. you.